Okay. Good evening. Welcome everyone to tonight's team call. Lovely to see you. Last month was an exciting month. We had quite a few people ranking, so well done if that was you, and well done if you just had like a slight increase in your business as well. It's really important to celebrate all parts of your business and to enjoy the journey. And tonight we get to celebrate the lovely Danny, who's going to be talking to us, and I'll introduce Danny in a bit. First of all, I'd like to just share a couple of announcements just to remind everybody. So we have, first of all, I want to mention the leadership retreat that's coming up in October. So the 6th and 7th of October is leadership retreat. It's for all silvers and above. You have to qualify as silver at least once. So the end of it finishes the end of this month. So if you haven't quite qualified as silver yet, you've still got a chance to qualify as silver by the end of this month, and then you can book your ticket for the leadership retreat in Berlin. We have Diamond Club starting in September. I've had lots of people message us about that, so that's exciting. Again, so the qualifying month was actually the end of July, so you can't qualify for it anymore. But if you Premier or above and qualified before July as a Premier and had 2 enrollments in either May, June or July, and you're still thinking about doing Diamond Club, it's a really good thing to do to really focus you for those 3 months, and you're working with other people and you get free products to offer people, so it's a really good thing to do to kind of spur your business forward. So you've got till the end of August to register for Diamond Club, or 15th of August. Let me just check that out. Yeah, 15th of August. So you've got one more day to register for Diamond Club. So if that's what you want to do, then you've got one more day to do that. We have the Product and Business Summit coming up in the UK in October, the 20th and 21st. And our guest, well, we're going to have many lovely speakers there. And we've got Boyd Truman coming to that, which I'm really excited about. So Boyd's going to come and share some of his business and product knowledge with us. So that's one not to be missed. It's £20 for each of the day. And for the first time ever, we're doing a UK gala. So that's £60 for the gala. So that's a really lovely event to come to. And then we have the global convention coming up, which some of you might even be going across to, but if you can get it virtual as well. So don't rule that one out. It's a lovely convention to listen to. I love to always listen to the Global Summit because you get to hear from all the executives and many of the scientists as well. So you can listen to that. That's 13th to the 16th of September, and you can purchase a ticket virtually. Just type into Google doTERRA US Convention 2023, and that will come up. Okay, so I'm now going to hand the time over to my lovely sister Melanie, who is over from America with me, so I couldn't resist asking her to be part of my team call. She's going to share an experience with the oils and a certain condition. So Mel, do you want to come over and share that?
Hello everyone. So I'm so excited that Bex asked me to share this experience because it's my favorite one. It's the one that had me really gain confidence in doTERRA oils, and it happened a while ago, about 7 years ago. So I have a really powerful allergy to cats. I get very asthmatic, and it hits me within about 20 minutes of being around cats, and I don't even have to see the cat. I can just be around somebody who has a cat, and I can get I could get a really strong allergic asthmatic reaction. So it's one day I was at Bex's house, and she had a class that evening at a lady's house that was about an hour and a half away, and typically whenever I go to a new person's house, I'll always take my inhaler, which is what I was using to arrest my symptoms, my asthmatic symptoms. But this night, for whatever reason, didn't take it with me. We arrive at this lady's house and we're on the doorstep, and Bex, I say to Bex, do you know if she's got a cat? And Bex looked at me and said, I don't know. I didn't even think to ask her. So my heart sinks because I know how strongly my body reacts. So the lady opens the door. It's a small house. Immediately behind her, in her small, compact, lovely hallway, is this gorgeous big, fluffy cat. I just panicked. I went into literal panic mode. And I just looked at Rebecca with like a horrified look on my face. And she touched me like this. She said, I've got this, Mel. I've got this. Don't worry. And I'm thinking, how on earth have you got this? You don't understand. I'm going to be in the ER soon. Anyway, we go into our house and Bex asks the lady for a small glass of water. And then she puts into the glass a couple of drops of peppermint, lemon, and lavender. And then she asked me to drink it. I've never used essential oils before. So she asked me to drink it. She's my sister. I love her. I trust her. I just swig it down. And then I put some air on the bridge of my nose. And then that's it. Bex starts setting up for her class. It was a long class. It was about 3 hours, I think, wasn't it, Bex?
It wasn't me talking for 3 hours.
No, but the participants were asking questions.
It was long.
And I, about halfway through the class, I took another dose of, I did the 2 drops of the lemon, lavender, and peppermint because I was panicking, not because I was feeling asthmatic, but because I was thinking this is going to wear off soon or whatever. And then we left 3 hours later, we get home and I had absolutely no reaction at all. Now, my litmus test is that I go and do some form of exercise the following day, because that stresses my cardiovascular system to see how much residual wheezing I've got. So I went to the gym, I did a full-on workout. I had no wheezing at all, none. And that isn't the case when I used to take my inhaler. I would always have a bit of residual wheezing, plus my body would kind of go like this. I'd get the shakes with my salbutamol inhaler. So that just blew me away, absolutely blew me away. And I since then I've never used my inhaler. I chucked it away. I've never used it. It was just life-changing for me. That small experience, literally life-changing. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that experience. It really was. It was, as Mel said, like she really was so panicked.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just really like, please, definitely work, please work. As I confidently said to Mel, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, thank you so much, Mel, for sharing that. No, it's fine. Thanks, Mel. So I just want to quickly just share some things about tea tree. That was our product of the month this month. Really good oil, Melaleuca tea tree. Obviously it's really high in antiseptic properties, so really good for using on like cuts, any infections at all. Great for cleaning as well. I like to mix it with citrus oil in my cleaning bottle spray because I don't love the smell of tea tree, although it does smell like really clean. So I do love that in a cleaning spray with a citrus oil. Spots, if you catch a spot early on, it's obviously more effective and it's quicker. It's going to be quicker. Remember, if you've had something for a long time, like more of a boil type thing, you can use tea tree. I would also mix it with frankincense then. And put it on really consistently. And for new spots, if you catch them early on, pretty much overnight, in my experience, they'll go. So really good for spots, really good for hair, hair health, as well as repelling nits and helping to get rid of dandruff. So just putting a couple of drops into your shampoo or conditioner is really good for your hair. Also, just back to the skin, I often put a bit of tea tree in my cleanser. So I'll just kind of add a bit to the doTERRA cleanser that I often use, or my, whatever I use, and put that on my skin and then wash it off. So it's really good to help clean the pores in your skin. It's also fantastic at working with oregano as nature's strongest antibiotic combination. So the oregano will go in and kill the bacteria. And what happens is bacteria often produce this kind of biofilm that surrounds the bacteria that then doesn't allow oregano to have such a good effect, such a powerful effect. So they work together by tea tree breaking down that biofilm wall, which is so amazing, isn't it? And then it allows oregano to really go in and be extra effective. So that's why it's so good at working alongside oregano. Good for fungal infections, athletes' feet. Obviously, with fungal infections, you want to work on the gut with someone as well. It's usually internal. It's usually to do with candida. and you can still use it there as a spray. So I'd make up a spray with the tea tree to spray on your feet. What else for tea tree? Oh, smelly feet. So good to go in your trainers after running or something. Helps to get rid of the bacteria in your smelly shoes as well and keep them smelling fresh. I often put it in my washing as well, bit of tea tree as well as the citrus oil, because I like the smell of the combination. How strong is the spray? In my sprays, I usually have a spray bottle about this big as my general sprays. I'm not even sure how much that is, probably 60 ml or something. And I put about, negative emotions, really good emotionally, about 10 drops of oil in a spray. That's what I do. Yes, on an emotional level, it's a really good protection barrier, and helps to cleanse the air, both physically and emotionally. So it helps to get rid of negative emotions. So it's a really good protector emotionally as well. So there's so many uses to tea tree. It was such a good product of the month. So hopefully you've all got it and you can really put it to great use. So I'm now going to stop sharing myself and let's get Danny. So Danny, like many of you will know Danny, she is an incredible business leader. She's often presented at our UK events because she's very consistent in her enrollments, right? For the last few years, couple of years for sure, she's been enrolling, one of the top enrollers most months, I would say. So she's really consistent in what she does. She shares the oils very consistently, very passionately, and is very inspiring. So she hit gold this month, which we're really celebrating with her. She's done a great job at that. And I wanted her to come and share some of her journey with us, and in particular focusing on follow-up, because follow-up is it's every step of our business. It's how we serve. It's how we really truly serve people. So I wanted Danny to come on and share a little bit about how she follows up with people, and also what she thinks some of the key tips are to her success and her journey to gold. So Danny, I'm going to find you and I'm going to pin you, but could you please unmute yourself and come on. Let's just move.
Yes, thanks, Bex.
Okay.
Am I unmuted now? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Amazing. Thank you for that really beautiful introduction. Not sure I can live up to that.
You can.
Thank you so much. So it's great to be here with you all this evening. Thanks for inviting me to come and talk about this, Bex. So what I just thought I would share is some of the things that work really well for me, particularly with follow-up, and some of the things that I wish I had done much earlier on in my journey. So it's been 4 years last month since I joined doTERRA. So my first year was relatively quiet, and if I'd have known a lot back then that I know now, I would have done things quite differently at the beginning, but hindsight is a really wonderful thing. So I thought I would just start by sharing what is working really well. So I've just got kind of a few hints and tips, and some of you may be doing some of this already. So the first one for me is that there's only 2 ways that I will stop following up with somebody. So the first one being that they block me. The second one is if they ask me to stop. Other than that, I will always follow up with people. So I might have followed up with somebody for years. Like, it's not just, well, I'll do it for a few weeks, and if I stop hearing from them, I stop. I don't until they say, hey, leave me alone, which never has happened. Like, of course, a couple of people do block, but nobody's ever said, can you please stop messaging me, ever. And actually, the opposite is often true. So people will say, oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. And, oh, I'm really glad you got in touch. It's really great to hear from you. So that's kind of my top one, is just don't ever stop until they say, hey, pack that in. I don't want to hear from you anymore. And so, yeah, it can take months, sometimes years. We never know when it is the right time for somebody. And it might be a no when you first speak to somebody. They might ignore you once you've, if they've asked for prices and then they just start ghosting you and ignore. It might just not be the right time then. But if you're the one that's consistent and follows up and checks in with them, every so often, then they're going to think of you first. And they'll actually really appreciate that attention that you give them and show that you actually really care about them. The second thing that I do is I try to make sure I always send them something relevant. So I don't just get in touch with them to say, hey, do you want to buy some oils? I think that's not really the type of conversation that I have. But, when you're in conversation with people, and it may be that they've reached out to you for a particular reason, they've got some sort of health issue going on, or they want to work on something. And so they might have asked you things and then they've gone really stale and really quiet. But if they've been talking to you, say they've got some gut health issues, maybe 6 months later, you've not spoken to them, but you've got a gut health class, then you can go back and follow up with them and say, hey, I really thought about you because I know this was a problem for you before. I'd love to invite you along. So I do that as well. So I try to make sure that I always send things that are relevant to them. If I've got classes, or even if there's really good offers, that if there's free products, like when we had that amazing Deep Blue set last year, for anybody that had come to me with kind of pain issues, that was a really great time to follow up and say, actually, you can get this amazing bundle. So I try to make sure that I tailor it to the type of things that they might be dealing with. I also make sure that I'm developing relationships with them. So it's not just, in their inbox or however you might get in touch, whether it's emails or WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. For me, it's primarily Facebook that I use. And a lot of my conversations happen in Facebook Messenger. So it's not just a case of jumping in their inbox, asking them about what oils they might want to buy or if they're ready to buy a kit. Sometimes it's that type of conversation if that's needed. But I also try to make sure I'm building relationships with them, and people love to talk about themselves. So I hear that they're just about to go on holiday. They're like, oh, I'm just about to go on holiday. I'll come back to you when I get back. So, I'll ask them where they're going on holiday. I'll take an interest in them. And then when I follow up, I ask how their holiday was. And if they've told me where they're going, I'll be like, oh, what was the weather like in Cyprus? What did you get up to? That type of thing. They'll tell me about their kids' birthdays are coming up. So I'll ask about their kid's birthday and if they had a great time. So it just helps to build that relationship with people so that when you are following up with them, it's not like you're just constantly trying to get a sale out of them. You're actually really caring about what's going on in their life as well. And that really helps. I also don't take it personally when they don't respond. That was really hard at the beginning. Like, oh, maybe they don't like me. It can be so easy to think this is about us, but we really have no idea what's going on in their world. And they could be going through a really tough time. They could be crazy busy, especially at this time of year when the kids are off school and stuff. So we just have no idea what's going on. And I've always found that most times people don't ignore me because they want to ignore me. They've read the message and then they forgot, and then other things have happened, and it's really hard sometimes to not think it's all about you. But I then make sure that I'm never not responsive to them and think, well, you've ignored me for 6 months, so don't ask me a question now, I'm not helping you. That never happens. So sometimes people will have read messages from me for maybe 6 months or a year, and then they send me a question and they're like, oh, what oil can I use for this, or what can I do for that? And it'd be really easy for me to go, well, you've ignored me for a year, so I'm not going to reply to you. I'm not interested. But, I'm always there to help and support no matter what, because that might be the right time for them when they need that. So I'm always helpful. I'm always polite. I'm never rude to them. And yeah, so I never really say, hey, why aren't you answering my messages? Because I hate that when people do it to me. I really don't like that at all. So I'm not pushy. I will just let them be if they've not replied. I'm not sort of poking them every 5 minutes. Hey, answer me. It's really frustrating when that happens sometimes. So, and the other thing is I don't badger people. So whilst I am consistent in follow-up, my follow-up might be every 3 or 4 months. It's not sort of every day or every week. Sometimes it's more regularly if there is a class coming up that I think is useful, and I may have only messaged them a week before. So that can kind of get involved and change the sort of the time frame. So I don't have it set every 3 months I'm in their inbox, but sometimes when I think of them, or I might see them post something on Facebook, so I'll interact with them there as well. So I'm not the sort of person that likes to badger people, because I don't like that. So I always think I treat people how I like to be treated. And if I don't want people to constantly message me every 5 minutes, then I'm not going to do that to somebody else either. So I think, what would I like and what would I appreciate? And then that's how I, kind of manage my relationships with my customers or my potential customers as well. So the things that I wish I did at the beginning, and it's really one kind of clear message: track everything. I was useless at this. And you know what? I will hold my hands up. I'm still not great. So the great thing is you don't need to have a really fancy system or something really complex. And I have not done that and still managed to have some success. So it's not kind of the be all and end all, but if I knew at the beginning what I knew now, I would make sure I kept a list of everybody I was in contact with, anybody who ever reached out for me or commented on a post and said, oh, what would you do with that? Or, what can I do for this? And literally keep a list, and as comprehensive as you can without being overwhelming. So I would make sure that I absolutely track their name and where I heard from them. So sometimes I get an email, most of the time, like I say, it's Facebook, but either it might have come from a personal Facebook message, or it may be somebody that's in my group. Sometimes Instagram. I'm not really much of an Instagrammer, but wherever you usually hear from people, so that you know how to get back in touch with them at a later date, but also what they reached out to you for, because that can be really valuable, especially, like I said, if you're going to go back to people about those classes, then it's really helpful if you've got a list of everybody in a spreadsheet that's interested in gut health, that you can just, change the little arrow at the top. I don't know the fancy technology, but if you just click it and select all the people that are gut health, then you know all the people that you need to message, and it makes it so much easier. So a spreadsheet is really simple. A CRM is great as well, because you can then put tasks to it and things as well. So this, for me, I know would have made, because I'm now trying to kind of backtrack and fix all this afterwards. So it's much easier if you've got like 10 or 15 people that you've been in contact with. But when that can be hundreds, it's really hard to keep track. And it does get crazily overwhelming. And then some people slip through the net. And sometimes I've sampled people and I've completely forgotten I've sampled them. I've not kept track of it. And that's a potentially lost customer because I didn't go back to them. So either I didn't follow up with their sample, or I didn't follow up with them several weeks or months later. So it definitely would help me to keep much better track and be more prepared. And also it's much more time effective, because I spend a lot of time doing the whole Facebook scroll through my messenger trying to find people's names, be like, oh yeah, what did I speak to them about? So having like a spreadsheet with a list or a CRM is definitely something I would have done much earlier. If they're willing, not everybody does when they're just in conversation, but if they're willing to give up a contact number or an email address, because then you can keep in touch with them in multiple ways. I know some people use the WhatsApp Business and can do like a it's called something, a
broadcast.
Yeah, broadcast. That's the word I'm looking for. Thanks, Bex. So then if you've got all those gut health people, you can send it to your gut health list, for example, which is so much more time effective. And we get really busy doing this. And we can be pulled in so many different directions that the simpler you can make it, and the more time effective you can make it, the more successful I think we can all be with it. Because I know I would have wasted a lot of time doing things that would have been much easier if I'd kept a much better list. And then, is there anything else? Yeah, also it means you haven't got to remember everything in your head, because I did that a lot. And then it's very stressful trying to keep everything in your mind and not trying to forget anything. And that really puts my body in a state of stress as well. And that's obviously something we're trying to reduce. If we're looking at our wellness pyramid, reducing our stress is quite important. So holding it all in your own head is not overly effective. So those are just kind of my little top tips, really. I hope that's kind of what you were wanting me to share, Bex.
Brilliant. So good, Danny. It shows how you're in it for the long game. It's not like a quick sale. doTERRA is not about a quick sale. Yes, sometimes we can have the quick sales, and that's great, and we never just leave them either. So we're about changing and helping people change their lives. And so what was really clear, Danny, of what you shared is that you're really, like I said at the beginning, really, you're really consistent. And yes, of course, you haven't done it perfectly, and none of us have, and we evolve and we learn, and that's why we can share. Like, if you're new now, please learn from us all. And what you have done really well is connected with people and continued and built up a relationship rather than like a sales probing device that's just horrible. Like you said, you're not like just badgering them for a kit. You're really like showing an interest in people, and people aren't going to not like that. So that's such brilliant tips, and it makes it feel really lovely and genuine and not like horrible from our angle. You know, you don't feel pushy. That always produces different feelings inside us. So fantastic, Danny. So would you say, just before I let you go, so in terms of getting to gold, huge congratulations, well done. Can you just share a little bit about your mindset with that this month? Just how
Yeah, interesting. It was the first time I actually decided I was gonna push for gold. Like, I'd kind of thought about it before, but didn't really have it on my radar. It was one of those, oh, it'd be nice to be, but I didn't actually really prepare for it or plan it or set it as a really hard goal, which is what I did in July. So I set the goal at the beginning, and it wasn't really one that I had particularly picked, but it was when we was in Bedrethen, and it was suggested that I should maybe pick gold, and I was like, well, I wasn't going to, but why not? So, you know, we kind of have to prepare for it at some point. So as soon as I got home, I was like, I'm not just going to kind of see what happens. I actually really wanted to give it my all and prepare for it. So I pretty much planned out my entire month, and I planned classes, and I planned classes that the team could invite people along to as well, because I've got quite a few that are new to sharing the oils. And so it was actually really hard to try and split my time if I was doing lots of different launch classes and things. So we did a lot of things as a team instead to try to maximize the time that we had available, because most people want evenings, and there's not some, I kind of need daytime and evening to have switched around, so you sort of get 8 hours of evening instead of just a couple. So I was like, okay, we'll do something that everybody can come along to. And yeah, I just kind of had this as a firm belief that I was going to do it, that it was actually possible, that it was something I was visualizing. And I'm really not a visual person at all. So when in my mind, when I'm saying I'm visualizing it, I'm just thinking, okay, what's it going to feel like when I see it go gold in the back office, right? So for me, I couldn't picture it, but I could feel it, and I could focus on what I wanted to achieve. So I planned some things out to be able to do that, and I did get a little bit of a wobble when it was about a week to go, and certainly the weekend running in, because it was still a little bit of a way off, and I started to have those doubts that creep in, going, oh, you know, it's still too far away. Is this really going to happen? And I had to stop and catch those thoughts and be like, you know, if you get into that, then that's exactly what's going to come true. You're going to get within this much, and then it's just not going to get there. And so I had to push those thoughts out of my head and not keep telling myself, and go, actually, I'm just going to keep going, and we'll see what happens at the end of the 31st. And so that's what I did. And I just kept pushing and going. And I was like, okay, what haven't I thought of? Who haven't I spoken to? What haven't I done? And just kept going. And yeah, 30th of July, gold happened. So it was pretty amazing.
Amazing, Danny, so amazing. I love that, because you basically combined the mindset with your strategy as well. So you put in place, you got into an action plan, you put the things in, you saw how much volume you needed, you over planned, which is what you always need to do. You need to do more than what, you know, the exact amount of enrollments that you need, way more normally. And then you could then take it one step at a time. And then when those doubts came in, you could just focus, like you said, on the next thing. Okay, what's the next thing on the calendar? Let's ignore those limiting thoughts. Let's just focus on that and just take it, which is brilliant. And you did it. You smashed it.
I think that's the hardest bit, is when we start telling ourselves that we're not going to do it and it's not possible. That's the hardest hurdle. It's much harder than doing the later night classes and the messages late and all of those things. That the hardest bit is getting over what our own selves tell us. And I'm probably my own worst critic.
Yes.
I'm so harsh on myself, like you can do better, which is so funny, isn't it? Because we all kind of feel that way about ourselves. So that's the hardest. It was the hardest challenge for me, was to not fall into that trap of going, oh, it's just not going to happen. And like my hubby had to remind me a couple of times. He was like, that's not the right attitude, honey. So he was really supportive, which was amazing. And I think the other thing that actually really helped is I reached out to quite a few. I reached out to you, Bex, and I spoke to Becky as well, and my uplines, and just kind of got their support and their advice, and just to get cheered on a little bit, because it just gives you that little extra boost to carry on. So definitely lean on your team, and your uplines as well, because it's really helpful when you've got somebody that's cheering in your corner, because it can be quite a solitary business at times. So to have somebody championing you in the background going, I can't wait for you to like send a screenshot and say it's gold. So that was really lovely. And hearing other people believing in you is also really helpful for you to keep that for yourself too. So if anybody's going for ranks, just go for it, guys.
Amazing.
It's so worth it when you get there.
It's so worth it. And then you realize you can do hard things, and then you realize you just learn the next time when those limiting thoughts come in, you're like, oh, I've been here before, whatever. I can do this. So brilliant.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Danny. I'm gonna let you relax now. That was perfect. Okay, so yeah, really good advice and tips from Danny. When you're a real leader, all leaders will close conversations. Okay, so that's what follow-up is all about. You would never leave someone hanging. Where in life do you not follow up with someone? If you invited them out to a restaurant, for example, with you wouldn't suddenly not call them, would you? Or if you've spoken to someone and you say you're going to call them next week or whatever, you wouldn't. It's really rude to not do that. So as leaders, following up is just part of what we do, and we never ever are the ones to end the conversation. So as Danny said, she just keeps going, and not in a horrible badgering way, but in a real caring way, until she gets a no. And the key is, with everything in doTERRA, is to just get over ourselves basically, and be unattached to the outcome. So and I know that sounds a bit hard, because of course we're attached to the outcome. We want to grow our business, we want to help people, and rejections are hard. And the more we can become just, I'm here to serve, I'm here to help others, and those that are ready will hear from me, and those that aren't won't right now. And it's okay. If we get into that mindset, then we're much more likely to enjoy the follow-up, and it becomes something we really enjoy. And we're going to hear from 2 more people in a second. And one person who I invited to speak was like, I love the follow-up. I'd love to share this. This is actually something I really love. So it's cool to get into that mindset with it. So our job really as wellness advocates is to take people from some people that don't know anything about the oils on this beautiful journey to then create this life where they then have a choice, and they're feeling educated with the knowledge they need to feel empowered to then take control of their health, right? With natural, really effective and safe tools. That is our job. So it's really important when it comes to follow-up, and I call it like your serving plan. Like, how are you going to most serve people? So maybe after this call tonight, just take some time just to jot down, or you can do it during the call, what is your serving plan? And to create that plan, you first of all, again, we want to go back to your why. Like, get really clear, why are you doing this? And yes, there's a financial side to it. And I invite you to look at the other side of it. Why have you chosen doTERRA as your financial vehicle? This is what drew you in, right? It wasn't just the money. And if it was just the money at the beginning, that's okay. And I'm sure that's kind of changed as you start using the oils. So what is it that you're really passionate about? And then work out your follow-up plan in your head. And it might be, you might have it already clear already. And there might be things that Danny's mentioned tonight already that's sparked something else that you can do. And just take your little person on your piece of paper, from meeting them in the street all the way to like this LRP user, every step of the way, what are your ways of following up? So when you meet someone, how is it that you get to engage with them and start to build that relationship? I'm very new to Insta. I finally got an Instagram account. Woohoo! And I now connect with people on Instagram, and that is a way I'm finding it's just great for people, a very soft way for people in my world to just start seeing me as a person, and also see how I use the oils in my everyday kind of life with my family. So someone's getting some gentle education there, as well as me doing my other follow-up style, which is then to try and invite them to the next step, right? Whether that's to have a bit of an essential oil experience there on the spot, or whether they get a sample, or whether I send them something in my bank of resources that I've built up. So again, if you haven't got a bank of resources, really collect a bank of resources that you have, like your favorite videos, your favorite documents, your ebooks, that you can just easily, in no time at all, just send someone. And when you're out in the street, you can say, oh, I've got something I can send you for that. So rather than going straight from meeting someone to I teach classes, sometimes that doesn't feel very natural, does it? So you want to have all these different ways of warming someone up. Where do I store that, Beck? So I just store it on my computer, Jo. So I have different folders, and I'll have just different links to all my favorite resources. And I'm still building them up now. I have like my favorite co-impact sourcing videos. I have some of my scientific research papers, because I love the science. So if I meet anyone like that, I'll be like, I can send you something really interesting that you'll love, you know? And these are things I can send at any point along the journey, you know, at the point of getting them to a class, to after a class. You know, I have my post-class emails, whether they bought or didn't buy. I'll have, I've started actually, again, this is something I've just started doing, is I'm recording little videos of me talking about the oils and different aspects of the class that I can just send people, like a 2-minute video. So if they're not ready to come to a class, it's about building that curiosity, isn't it? And getting someone intrigued enough to want to learn more. And sometimes that can be before a class or after a class. So having these kind of soft touches, Pinterest is a good space. I love that. So coming up with like a way, I want you to really get clear on your own personal plan, because it will be different to mine. It'll be different to Danny's. It will be different to perhaps your uplines, and there'll be similarities too. And what you want to be thinking of is, what's the most effective follow-up plan I can come up with that's also going to free my time. So if you're at the start of your journey, it's very easy to follow up and be really good at following up with 10 to 15 people. But this is what you want to start creating in your mind, is like, I'm going to be attracting hundreds of people. So how do I manage this? How do I really serve all these people in an effective way that's not going to take up all my time? So having your kind of things in place that you can then send people to help them on their journey is really important. And that leads us on to the next two people that I'm going to just have come on share for a couple of minutes. We've spoken about been a bit of chat on that. If you've unmuted, kindly mute yourself.
Yeah, my office.
It's your new office.
That's my new office.
There we go. Little. There we go. So these two people are now going to share how they track their people, right? Because it's so important you have a way of tracking them. And I did track people from the beginning. I started with a pen to paper system, and I've always then had an Excel spreadsheet that turned into like a MailChimp. And that was really key in me following up with people, because as Danny said, you can easily forget people, and there might be people you meet now that they won't join for another year. Whereas if you just update that spreadsheet, and every now and again you can go in and just look at that and just send someone a message. It's just about building relationships. So I'm now going to invite V on. So V, if you can unmute yourself. V is from South Africa. She's on Michelle and Daniel's team, and she's kindly said that she'll come on and just share her simple tracking system with us. So I'm going to have V, if you can please unmute yourself, and I'll try and find you and pin you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, happy to be here. And yeah, Michelle asked me if I would share my my tips, and it's really quite simple. I'm like a really simple person. I don't like to reinvent the wheel. My phone is my life. So everything is actually on this phone. But basically, I have built my business mostly online. So I run my own targeted ads. Not that I don't teach classes, but when my ads, when my leads come through, I label them. So for example, if the person's name is Sharon and it's August, I go Sharon, August 2023. I then put them onto an Excel spreadsheet. I've had this for months, so that every month I can track it. And basically, yeah, I'm also a follow-up until they die or say stop. And what I do is I do create broadcast groups. So I do label them sometimes their name and let's say tummy issues or whatever, because I looked at my phone. I've got over 6,000 names on my phone. Obviously not all from doTERRA, so it's a bit hectic. But yeah, basically that's my system. I just label them, their name, their surname, the month that I've received that lead. And another thing that I learned from when I worked in my previous corporate job is if it's a hot lead, so if someone is really, maybe financially they can't join in August, but say, contact me in September or October, I label them as a hot lead. I put them into a different broadcast group. If someone is sort of, keen, but the timing is just a bit off, that could take 6 months, it could take 9 months, I label them as a warm lead, and that goes into another broadcast group. And yeah, I mean, I've signed up someone I was chatting to in 2020 last month. So I just stayed in touch with her. And something that I'm doing now as well, I've started a couple of months ago, is if someone is not, can't afford to get started, I actually send them my my Facebook page. I say, look, let's stay in contact. We always have offers and specials and promotions. That way you can, stay in touch with me and I can stay in touch with you. So I'm just covering that aspect just in case something had to happen to my phone. So I'm inviting them to my business Facebook page, which is, it's slowly growing. And yeah, that's basically what I do. Just an Excel spreadsheet, and that name will, correlate to my cell phone and how I've labeled them there.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Bea. Thank you. That reminded me, that really good. Lots of it was really good. And what you said about the warm and the hot contacts, because you do forget, don't you? And when you're looking at all those names on your sheet, it's really good to see the ones that you need to act on more quickly when time's a bit tight, and those that can, aren't such in a hurry. I used to actually rate mine out of 10. I had like a 10 rating system. I remember you just triggered my memory in that. And that helped me in a similar way. So that's really good, very good tips. Thank you so much, Bea. Okay, and then our last person that's going to come on and speak to us, I'll remove your pin, Bea, then you can relax, is Lisa Franz. So she's the one that said to me when I invited her that she loves follow-up. So Lisa, come and tell us why you love follow-up and what your tips are with follow-up, please.
Thanks, Bex. I'm going to regret saying that now, aren't I? But no, I have always enjoyed the follow-up, because I feel by that stage I've relaxed a little bit, because you've got the initial meet over and done with. You can picture what they look like if you've, seen them in person or seen a photograph of them or done a Zoom. So by follow-up, I feel like I know who I'm talking to a little bit more. I feel like I'm going to say quite a lot of what's already been said, but hopefully you'll get something new from it. But I do have a system. I've always been a systems girl. That's just me. Any excuse for new stationery, new folders, binders, dividers, I'm there. So this is my follow-up. This is literally all I use. I have all my spreadsheets in here. And I have all the dividers, and I have them all labeled as to the groups of, what that spreadsheet is for. I'm really bad with technology. It takes me hours to create a spreadsheet. So what I do is I play around for a while to see what I think will work for that, what I've got in mind for that particular spreadsheet. And I just draw it on an A4 bit of paper, columns, what I think I want. And then when I've started using it just for a few people, I then say to my lovely husband, can you please make this spreadsheet for me? And this is how I want it. And then he's got, and then I don't feel like I'm having to, oh no, that didn't work actually, can you change it? So that's kind of how I know if a spreadsheet's going to work. But I love a system because if tidy mind, everything sort of gets done for me. So I have spreadsheets for those that I've enrolled, those I've sampled, those that have ordered 1 or 2 oils, any conversations that I've had. So little things that helps me remember that person. I don't have the best of memories, so I do try and write down the key things, even whether it's, you know, where I met them. In fact, I always record where I've met them on all my spreadsheets. I've got platform, so it'll be Instagram, or it'll be down at the gym, it'll be at whoever's class it was, whether it was at the bus stop. I always write down where I've met them. And when I've got their contact in my phone, I put that contact in my phone and I add a field. You can do that, you can add a field. So you've got extra bits of information, and I always put where I met them, because I just find that helps to jog my memory. And I sometimes even do a little description of maybe what they look like, or especially if I was, you know, just in a gym class, for example, you speak to people quite quickly at the start of a class. So I try to just write down a quick description so that I can have a look for the following week when I go, just to remind myself to look out for that person. So I do love my spreadsheets and I do love my folders. I also love WhatsApp. That is the bit of technology that I do like to use. So I love WhatsApp Business. There's so many features in there with the labeling systems. So you can create labels. So you can label your contacts, whether they're enrolled, whether they're a potential enrollment, whether they have hosted a class, or maybe potential host for a class. You can create, I think it's 20 different labels you can create. And then you can label your contacts, and you can give, I'm not sure how many you can give per label, but I haven't got to a limit yet, so that's good. And I also do love the broadcast lists in WhatsApp. I use them more for an on-the-go spreadsheet, if you like. So obviously I don't carry this around with me everywhere, but I carry this around with me everywhere. So I use the broadcast lists purely as a duplicate of my spreadsheet, so that if I'm out and about, say we've gone out for the day, we've gone away for a weekend, someone messages me, I might want to just see which list they're on to know exactly how to tailor my response to them, because your response is going to be very different, someone who's never sampled the oils to somebody who's been to a class, had samples, maybe even bought an oil. So I like to, again, just jog my memory of who this person is and what stage they're at with their doTERRA journey. So I've got potential class host list, potential enrollments, single product orders, format account holders. I keep a spreadsheet for that as well, those that have got inactive or completely their accounts not on my organization anymore. And I've even got a WhatsApp group for that group of people as well. So I've got a number of WhatsApp groups which I find really helpful for follow-up. So I've got one for interested people, where if I'm at an event, I have my QR code on my display table saying you can join this WhatsApp group, just scan the QR code and they go into an interested group. So everyone on there is not a customer, they are all potentials. And then I've got customer support groups, and then I've got a format account holder group as well, because just because they maybe have lapsed their membership doesn't mean they don't use the oils they've got in their home. Doesn't mean they're never going to buy doTERRA again. It doesn't mean that eventually they might want to reactivate their account. So I think that was really important for me to make them feel like they weren't abandoned as customers, because they still have doTERRA products in their home. They're still going to need the support. So yeah, spreadsheets and my phone with the lists on there. And then when I call them, I try to call them because I find that more personal, or a voice note rather than just a text message. Text messages I do, or WhatsApp messages I will do, but I always try to personalize it. And I think a voice is so much nicer to hear than just a text as well. So I try to keep my voice notes really short for them. Any of you that are on here that have had voice notes from me before will know that I do waffle. So sorry. But for customers, I do try to keep it short because I don't want to look and go, oh my goodness, it's like a 10-minute message. There was something else. Oh, and I organize the contacts in my phone because like V, I've got thousands of contacts in my phone, not all doTERRA obviously, but just so that I can switch off when I need to, I've put symbols in front of my doTERRA contacts so that it actually separates those contacts from the rest of your phone book. So anything that you put a symbol in front of, particularly in WhatsApp, I'm just going to check actually, it's definitely WhatsApp, but let me just check my phone because I don't want to say something that's not right. Oh no, even in my phone contacts as well. So phone contacts and WhatsApp, basically all my friends, family, they've just got their name, so it goes A to Z, and then a new A to Z list starts. Anyone with doTERRA has got a purple dot in front of their name. So then I know that they're a doTERRA contact, and anyone I work with doTERRA has got the capital O with the line across the top. So they're all separate as well. And I just find that just helps my brain again. It's like creating a list, another list within your phone. And then that way, if I get a message or I feel like I want to message, I can just put the purple dot in and everyone with a purple dot will come up and I'll know who they are and if I want to message them. But yeah, when I do sometimes use the broadcast lists to follow up, but generally they're for things like, not just follow up, they'll be like, oh, it's BOGOs, or we've got a sale. It's like don't want to miss this. But following up, I like to personalize. So I like to send it individually, which is a bit time consuming, but I copy and paste a main message and then I will just change the name, kids' names if I know them, if they've, like Danny said, if they've been on holidays, just little things. It doesn't take too long. And I'll write a list in my notebook first of all those I want to, and then I'll do them in groups of 10 and I'll do 10 a day. So it's not too overwhelming. And those that I feel are quite a cold contact, those that I really don't get much communication from, maybe it's been a long time, maybe I've never even met them, maybe they were invited to a Zoom class by the host, and maybe they didn't turn up to the class, or maybe they did come to the class but they kept their video off and they've never reached out to me, but I've got their number because they were added to a WhatsApp group. Those sort of contacts, I do at the end of the message put a little, if you no longer want to receive doTERRA information, please reply stop. And I really like that because I have had a few stops, but often with a little message saying it's nothing personal, it's just not my thing. But more often than not, I get really lovely messages back saying, oh no, please don't stop. It's just I've been busy, or I've had this happen, because like Danny said, you don't know what's going on in their lives. So it's just a nice little way to build a relationship. Actually, I try to do that as well. Try to really get to know these people, and I try to get them to know me as well. I always direct them to my Instagram and my WhatsApp so they know ways to reach out to me if they need it. And I'm working on my Instagram trying to get people to see who I am so they feel like they know me a bit as I try to get to know them. But that's it, I think. Oh, and some amazing tips in this book. This book actually was a game changer for me. We got given this at Cornwall last year. I've read this book 3 times now, and it's underlined and it's got sticky notes in it. But skill number 4 is all about follow-up. And Eric Worre, he's amazing. He's like the best network marketer that there is. But he said, people respect a person who does what they say they're going to do. So if you say you're going to follow up with them, follow up with them. And there was something else. Oh, when you follow up, never ask them, what did you think? Never ever say to them, what did you think of the oils? What you have to say is, what did you like best? And I think that's the nicest thing, because when I've done that, when I started doing that, they would tell me which of the samples I sent them they liked best. And then I would look up in the emotions book what that oil is, to maybe get to know them, to see what why they maybe are drawn to that oil, because then I could talk to them about other blends that had that oil in there, and it's just a way to get to know them, to build that relationship. Anyway, I'll stop waffling now.
That was amazing, Lisa. There are so many like additional tips you shared. It's so great to hear from different people because it's, you know, we all do it a bit differently. So useful, so many useful tips. Your broadcasting, messaging. I love the dot. Loads of people were saying, I love the dot thing. I had no idea about that. So that's really good because it is important to separate your work and your, you know, your family contacts. That's really, really important. And I think lots of people get put off in adding contacts for that reason. So that's a really cool hack, a way around that. Thank you, Lisa. I can tell you love follow-up. You showed us. You definitely showed us you love follow-up.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wrap up the call there. That was just a fantastic call, hearing from lots of different people about follow-up. Hopefully you've all got really excited about it, and if you were feeling a bit like, oh, I don't like follow-up, hopefully now you're going to love it and you're going to find your way and you can really see the purpose and importance of it. In 2 weeks' time, it's our guest call. We have Isaac Wilson coming on, who's the European General Manager in doTERRA. So I will put a post in Silver Blossom because this is going to be a really interactive one to ask anything you want to know. So even, you know, I know we've got a lot of people on here from South Africa. You know, you can ask your questions too, and he'll be able to help with that too. He has, you know, obviously his mates will be the general manager in South Africa as well, but a lot of it will be, you know, across countries as well. So a lot of the answers will be the same. So think of any questions you want to ask. We can ask Isaac in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and see you soon. Goodbye.